Hey there, Chris Hill here. I just want to share this video with you guys, a conversation I had with my buddy Chang. He's an entrepreneur, marketer, really smart guy. We had an awesome conversation, about 40 minutes or so, talking about business, marketing, a lot of stuff that I don't actually normally talk about. So here you'll get a little dive into some of that, but also kind of how the book came to be, and also a lot of the back end, the marketing stuff, the stuff that you wouldn't actually even really think exists unless you actually know what's going on. So I hope you enjoy this conversation, and again, if you can get the book, I would really appreciate it. I just want to keep being able to do this with you guys. I love sharing content, I love writing, I love cooking, and I can't wait to go out there and meet you guys, and you guys buying and supporting the book gives me a chance to keep that dream going. So thanks guys, and enjoy the conversation, and I'll have in the first comment here down below, I will share the link to the book. If you buy it, email me at makingthecutbook@gmail.com, and I'll send you some freebies, some kind of thank yous for buying it early. I appreciate it, and all you guys that have already gotten it, I really appreciate it. You're awesome. Cheers.
Hi, it's John here again with another Indie Creative Journey, and this time we've got Chef Chris Hill back again to talk about what's happened since the last time we had him on the show, and basically the things that he's got going on. So Chris, one of the things I always like to kind of lately lead off with is, so what's got you lit up each morning? What is it that kind of gets you excited and getting out of bed in the morning?
Well, I think it's a lot of the same stuff that has been for a while, but really recently, I've been in the process of getting this book published. I finalized a bunch of interviews and am publishing here in about 6 weeks or so. So that's what kind of keeps me going right now. I'm excited. I have a bunch of amazing stories that I'm really able to share now, and I know that my community that, as you know, and have been a part of, is really grown over the last 6 months or year. So I'm really just excited to share that with them and help make a bigger difference.
Yeah, that's what's interesting also is, from an entrepreneur's perspective, you really made a pivot, because I know we were talking about the launch of the new restaurant and stuff, and then one of the things that just came up, of course, is just the things with the book and everything. Before we kind of go much more into the book, can you talk a little bit about what kind of went into that decision to kind of make that shift?
Sure. Yeah. So it's funny because actually one of the lessons I learned through this whole book process that I kept hearing over and over again was this ability for people that were successful to pivot, to adapt to change, to when things aren't going well, to figure out kind of the next move. So yeah, for me that was, I moved back to Atlanta after selling my restaurant in Virginia, and was I was ready to open up a restaurant here in my hometown, and my brother and I were kind of set, and then his wife got pregnant, which you can imagine, with any entrepreneurial venture, it's going to be challenging time-wise, but I think especially for a restaurant, because you have to be there all the time. It's early, it's late, you're putting out fires when you're not supposed to be there. So we said, let's just put it on hold for now, and that's kind of what we decided to do. So I took this as an opportunity to kind of keep building and growing my brand, and now you have the opportunity to really connect with a lot more people than I ever would have originally. Plus, do some speaking, and obviously the book too. So
yeah, I think that's what's interesting is different times. I think we might have talked about the last time about the idea of kind of, especially for indie creatives, is having these two sides: the creative side, which is basically putting our work out there into the world, and then the entrepreneur side, which is seeing how the world responds and stuff. So I think that's the thing that kind of we really have to balance there, is kind of between the art and the business side stuff. So as you've done that, where have you found people have really connected with you, and what are some of the ways that they've kind of basically let you know what it is that they wanted to see and stuff?
Yeah, well, I've definitely been able to connect with a lot of people in the restaurant industry, specifically chefs and cooks, people that are looking to make their career out of doing that. I felt like there was a big void. I first, when I started building my brand, started just creating recipes, developing recipes, and I realized, there's a lot of people out there doing that. There's Food Network, all of those personalities, plus there's just other places where you can find a recipe for hummus or for chicken salad or whatever else. So I said, what's a different direction that's maybe a more needed direction to go. And when I finally started putting my work out there, my writing, which is really important to me, I realized it was really resonating with people, and people saw this void, and I obviously saw it based on the interactions I was getting from people, which was very cool, which was very rewarding because, I mean, up front, it wasn't making me any money. It was just kind of my way of validating what I was doing. And so, based on that and people's interaction, I was able to really see that it was wanted and maybe even needed out there in the marketplace. And but you're asking, how did people let me know they wanted it? I'm not really sure that they did at first. Sometimes I can't remember the exact quote, but Steve Jobs said, sometimes you need to look into the future and figure out what it is your target market or your customers might need. They don't always know. So I think that was kind of really what happened with me, is started putting this work out there that they slowly realized, oh, well, maybe this will help me.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of my favorite quotes too. Is that he talks about how do do people know what they want if they haven't seen it and stuff. And I think that's the thing that, like, as a creative, different times you are providing something that, like, people didn't even know that they wanted and stuff. So one of the things I find also is that, like, especially for creatives too, is that they get so overwhelmed with all the different, like, we have all these different social media, and one person says use blogging, another one says make video and stuff. So what was it that kind of, like, got you to, it seems like Medium was where you really found traction, and that, like, people really resonated with you and your words and stuff. So what led you to, start publishing and writing on there?
Well, I think my story is probably similar to a lot of other people's. I've been blogging for, probably 4 or 5 years before that. And, putting my work out there, putting my writing out there. I was doing some TV stuff, but, that was totally different. And I really, I'm not sure exactly. I think there's a certain point when, as an artist, and, I love Brandon Stand of Humans New York. He talks about this, how, you put your work in, you keep putting it in every single day. And for the longest time as an artist, you don't see any sort of validation for it, which is hard. And most people just kind of quit. But if you can keep going, if you can keep at it long enough, then people start to realize, and it starts to resonate with people. And that's kind of where that tipping point hit for me with Medium. I think in part because there's a bigger platform. But really, it was just kind of day in, day out, putting my work out there. And finally, it was one of the greatest days of my life when I saw that article start to go viral. It was the first 2 weeks that I wrote it, it got maybe 200 views. And then it just picked up steam. And, within a week, it was getting 90,000 views a day, which for me, that was pretty awesome. And really kind of, that's what the snowball started going downhill. And I really just try to kind of keep the steam going.
Yeah, I think it's funny that way, like you said, about this idea that you really are, putting in those 10,000 hours, just like kind of, wherever and stuff. And for you, it looked like it was Medium. For me, it was, Core, actually, for some reason, kind of, really resonated. Yeah. And the thing I find is that it's really, like you said, you just, you don't know until you keep at it, and then see, like, kind of, where for somebody, like, I think for me, what I see as a Medium is that, like, people there want to share thoughtful writing. It's not something that, it's not a place where people put, like, cat videos and stuff. It's just a very different audience. And so it's a thoughtful audience, and that really, was ideal, I think, for your style of writing, where it's, there's more to it that, beyond, like, kind of just the bullet points or the listograms, kind of that you see on blogs all the time. I think as you move with that, and then you kind of really took that momentum and continued on to other things. So what was it next that, like, kind of, how did you basically go from Medium to then starting to kind of connect and build a deeper connection with your audience?
Well, at that point, I think I realized, I was kind of not lost per se, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was at the point where I thought I just really would keep owning restaurants. I would come back to Atlanta, open my second one. And, but to me, the writing part was always important. But so for that to be able to connect with people, it kind of gave me a chance to reevaluate things and say, all right, this worked. Some other stuff didn't work for whatever reason, but what can I keep doing that'll keep working? That's still kind of true to what I want to do. So it really kind of gave me more of a testing ground for being able to do the work that I wanted, but then to see if it was working or not, and if people were resonating with it. I think a lot of times people want to do something. That was the case with me. They want to put something out there, and for whatever reason, maybe you have too much tunnel vision, or maybe it's the people that actually don't want that necessarily, but people are kind of unwilling to make that shift or that move that they need to. And often I think it's very slight sometimes, but it's kind of getting out of your own way and seeing what other people want, and really kind of that gave me the opportunity to explore more and to try new things. And really, as Seth Godin talks a lot about, is try things that might not work, and to keep putting things out there, hoping that they do, and realizing that each failure along the way is hopefully getting you closer to success.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's again, just part of the journey and stuff. And then so in your book though, I find that like what you're really looking at is the different journeys of these different chefs and stuff. That's something that I think what's interesting is, in a way, even though it's a book to kind of help you establish your brand, but then you're also looking at each of these other individual chefs and almost sharing the stage with them and stuff in there. So what have you found as like kind of some of the common things that of these successful chefs and stuff? What are some of the things that kind of you found recurring again and again?
Yeah, well, so yeah, to kind of touch back on the point you started with is, yeah, I mean, I really wanted to make this as much about other people as I could. I intentionally used part of my story because I felt like the average line cook or the average chef could maybe connect with it, if that makes sense. But yeah, I had a certain idea of what I thought would come out of dozens of these interviews with not just chefs, but really, really great chefs. Some that we know, people like Fabio Viviani, Frank Stitt, Gavin Kaysen, Dominique Corinne, who's actually out your way, the first female chef to have 2 Michelin stars in the U.S. Some great chefs, and the first thing is, rarely did our conversations come back to or focus on the actual food part of things. Which to me says it's kind of like the whole 10,000 hour rule, like you mentioned a minute ago. If you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to work really hard, you can figure out pretty much anything. So if it's not about the food and the cooking, then what is it about? And a lot of it was, and I kind of go through it in the book, but it's having a vision. It's not just having a vision, but also actually executing that. So so many of us, like myself, I was fortunate that I was able to do this, but we're stuck in that dead-end job, or we're stuck doing something we're not happy with, and we see this vision for our life or for our career, and we just kind of see it out there but never really do anything about it. So all the ones that are successful really have that vision, see it, and then put it into play, and then really make a conscious choice to follow their heart each step of the way. So there's that. There's again, going back to the trying things that might not work. In restaurants, you're trying so many different things. There's so many moving parts, and if you're not constantly trying things new to make things better, then you're really kind of falling behind. But the people that are really great end up trying things because they want to figure out how something can be better, but also maybe a different flavor or a different technique or something different that can make their product better. So, and they know that along that journey of getting to something better, there's going to be a lot of things that'll be worse that lead up to that finally make it better. And then probably I'll touch on 2 more. One being people that being like yourself, or I think myself as well, being generous. Once you've kind of figured out what you want to do, once you're kind of on your way, how can you be generous before you're actually to that place of being really successful? Because it's kind of counterintuitive, but I think Tony Robbins has a great conversation about it, where he's pretty much dead broke. He gives his last $20 to some kid. 2 days in the mail later, this check comes in that he's been waiting for. And I'm not saying it always happens like that, but I think the more generous you are, the more it's going to kind of come back around at some point. And then finally, it's about the people. That's really probably the most enjoyable part of all these conversations I've had. And then really the writing part too, I think, is talking to these amazing chefs about the people. One great example is Frank Stitt, who's 60, maybe mid-60s now, and he's out of Birmingham, Alabama, has several James Beard Awards, just went in the James Beard Hall of Fame, really talented, amazing chef. He opened up his first restaurant in Birmingham in the early 80s. This was before Birmingham had any sort of, or really most cities had any sort of exciting dining scene to them. And he kind of bought into this thing he wanted to do. And now the whole city of Birmingham has his fingerprints. Pretty much every nice restaurant in town has somebody that he's worked with or has worked underneath him. And it just kind of shows, like, if you do the right thing, if you train people not because you need somebody to work, but because you actually want to believe and invest in who they are, then at the end of the day, it really kind of ends up being super beneficial for everybody.
Awesome. There's so many different things and just a few, like items you talked about that I wanted to kind of touch on, but really the first one that comes to mind for me is this idea, though, that like, which really, Scott Dinsmore talked about this too with the Livid Legend tribe of doing this work that you just you can't not do. And
can't not do, right?
Yeah, you're familiar with that as well. And I feel like that's one of the things that, like, you've talked about different times with yourself, and then I also get that sense that, like, one of the things that you found with these successful chefs is, because the food industry, the restaurant business, it's known for razor thin margins and like really like slogging it out lots of hours with very little reward and stuff. But yet, as you found yourself and also these chefs and stuff, it's that like even before like the whole Food Network effect, you guys were really into it. That like you guys really believed in what you were doing no matter what. So like what is it about that? Like kind of maybe you can speak a little bit about how that was just something that like you found, that again, there was work that you could not do and stuff.
Right. A great story, actually. Just yesterday here in Florida, I'm in Florida right now. It's beautiful right here on the coast. Kind of getting away to do some writing and try and just focus on that part of things. But right up the road is a gentleman I spoke with about the book, Chef Kenny Gilbert. He was on Top Chef and really talented guy. He actually, his first chef job was the Ritz-Carlton right up the road here. And we were talking and about just all this kind of stuff. And analogy he made that I really resonated with me was, he's like, I asked him about some certain challenges he had in his life at certain points, and he talked about when he was 21, his first wife, he had like I think a 6-month-old at the time. His wife died in a car crash. And this was in November, and the holidays were coming, and as you can imagine, any 21-year-old or probably anyone in general would just have a really tough time with things. And so he kind of made the analogy of, you come into work and you have this big monkey on your back, and we all have that in some capacity. Maybe it's something like that, or maybe it's bills, or maybe it's whatever else. But he said, when you can learn to put the monkey that's on your back, just hang up on the tree on your way into work, and try and find work that for you is your safe place, is your place where you can learn and enjoy the people that you're with. And if that's not the place you're working, you need to find something else, either a different restaurant or maybe it's a different career. So I'm sure you can probably relate to that. I thought that was a pretty eloquent way of putting it, because at the end of the day, once your shift's done, that monkey's still out there on a tree waiting for you to get out. So you might as well try and find a way to enjoy your time doing the work that really, like you said, you can't not do.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that we often talk about like kind of like the whole never mind the get rich kind of thing and stuff like that, but also the idea of like one of the things that internet marketing is really continue to perpetuate is this kind of idea, like Tim Ferriss, God love him. I met the guy. I think what he does is put out great stuff and everything. But I think the downside of it is this idea of this 4-hour work week and stuff, and it gives this illusion that like, your goal should be like kind of, not working at all. And really, like, Tim is one of the hardest working, guys out there, the internet celebs and stuff like that. So it's really not about not working. It's really about like kind of doing work that you really love to do. That like, that even if you, the whole idea of even if you weren't being paid for it and stuff. So I think that's the thing that like really, like what was it though that like, we talked a little bit about the last time we the last time we had you on the show and stuff like that, but like you found that cooking was your thing and stuff like that. And I think what a lot of creatives still have a hard time is figuring out what is their one thing and everything. I think, really, can you talk a little bit about like kind of just for yourself, like what was it that like, kind of really led you to this path of, not only just cooking and food, but writing about it. So what was that kind of moved you in that direction?
I'm not sure if you're familiar with Chris Gilbo, but he has a new book that came out. I've only read certain parts of it, but it's called I don't know if you know off the top of your head, but it's essentially about finding the work that you're kind of meant to do.
Right.
And I don't think there's just one type of work that we're all meant to do per se, but a lot of what I've read from the book, it talks about how you really need to try a bunch of different things and figure out kind of what resonates with you. For me, that was, I worked in restaurants kind of in and out from high school up until, finally I made like the plunge, so to speak, at 27 maybe. Up until then, I just kind of, I went to college, went to grad school, did marketing, had jobs in college as a collection agent, as in a marketing department for a museum, having these different jobs and doing these different things, then finally realizing, okay, like this resonates with me, this doesn't, and really trying to kind of hone what it is that you do around the things that you do enjoy and kind of care about. Because at the end of the day, like if you want to make something successful, it's going to take a long slog, whether it's restaurants or otherwise. So the more you can kind of enjoy the process along the way, it's, I think, going to be a lot more, probably successful in the end, but also you'll appreciate a lot more, along the way.
Yeah, I think for me, what I talk about different times is following your curiosity. It's the thing that Steve Jobs did when he took that calligraphy course and, dropping out of college stuff. And, like it was years later, right, that Mac, were the first ones to put fonts into computers. And so, in other words, like his famous quote is, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking back. And I think that that's absolutely that, like, you have to just, trust in that intuition that, like, for some reason, this really resonates with me and stuff. And for you, it was cooking and these different things you did. And then, ultimately being writing and stuff. And so I think the thing that we as a society are afraid of, or that we're taught to be afraid of, is to waste our time and stuff. But there is no wasted time if you, really are following that intuition to seeing what the next thing is. So along the ways with the writing of the book and stuff, like what would you say has kind of been like kind of your journey as a writer? Like how has writing this book transformed you yourself?
John, can you hold for 1 second?
Yeah, sure.
I have my phone charger because Vlad is killing my battery. I don't want it to die. We're having a good conversation.
Okay, I'm gonna
pause
1
second.
Yeah, I'm gonna pause it right now then. And yeah, so we left off just basically talking about how basically about the connecting the dots idea and stuff. And then I wanted to see about like kind of right now from here, and like what would you say in terms of has been your journey like in writing the book? Like how has that that experience changed you?
The book's been incredible. It's been amazing to connect with a lot of these people with different stories from all the world. That more than anything, it's been challenging as you talk about and kind of made your mission of being the entrepreneur. Then the entrepreneur has to do a lot more business as a creative or indie entrepreneur, you get to see a lot more of the business side than you really ever think up front. So for me, it's been a challenge of trying to manage that creative side of doing the actual work that I really care about and want to put it out to the world, but also, manage the whole book process, having people that like the final cover and back design is coming in hopefully today at some point, and just all these different things that you really need to get your head around and have a good grasp on. Otherwise, like the product that you're going to launch and put out the world isn't going to be successful the way you want it to be. So it's really kind of having that understanding of the business side, as best as you can, really learning as much as you possibly can up front. That's been really the challenge for me, and is of trying to do the work that I really need to do to get the book done to be successful, but also the business side will also make it successful.
Yeah, I think that's really like a huge thing, is just, like where it's, I mean, in the ideal world, we would just be able to kind of just, create and people just automatically, buy what the thing, our work, whether we're a chef or we're a writer and stuff like that. But unfortunately, there's so much of the marketing that's involved that, like, it's just kind of, I think it's only once I started kind of doing business for myself that, like, I've realized how much of it is just simply, connecting with the audience, connecting with your customers, stuff like that. So what would you say is kind of like helped with the marketing, though? Like, what kind of thing, like, yeah, you have an established audience or anything like that. You said you've kind of, brought in some other folks. What are some other things that, like, has really kind of help you to leverage your time to basically get more done in terms of the marketing aspects?
John, would you mind pausing one more time? This stupid chart.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've learned kind of along the way is having people in your court. Having somebody that is going to go to bat with you, that also helps you kind of spread your wings a little bit farther. So for me, that's been creating a book launch team, which I think you actually, I believe, might be a part of, and really having kind of like the ground troops that are all over the country, or in some cases world, that are going to help spread the message. Obviously, it helps on social media, but also when you have certain people from Detroit or San Antonio or San Diego or Philadelphia, when you have those people, they're telling their friends, then the word of mouth becomes a lot more effective, and which is kind of where the idea of the word viral and virality came from. So really kind of having those group of enlisted people that want to be a part of and help spread your message, those are the ones that are really going to get it out there. So for me, it's I started the process probably about 2 months ago of saying, hey, if you want to be a part of the book launch, let me know. Here you can, on my website, you can fill out this form that explains why you want to be a part of it, how you're going to help spread the word. And I had probably 500 people that fill this thing out up front, and obviously it wasn't a perfect fit for everybody, but at the end of the day, we got a bunch of great people from all over the country, and a lot of these people too are saying, hey, we're from San Antonio. I got emails from other people from San Antonio. What can we do together to make it work, where I can come maybe stop by San Antonio or Austin or Philadelphia or wherever it is people are. So it's been fun to see kind of the ground troops kind of scattered throughout.
So is that becoming like your backbone for the book tour then? Is just like some of the people kind of saying, hey, like, are you going to come by San Antonio or some of these other places and stuff?
Yeah, that's the goal, right? Right now I'm in the process. I essentially put some things up on Facebook now. I have a big enough platform where if I put something out there, hopefully I can get enough of a response. Where I got 5 people from Denver and who said, we'd love to have you come out. And, if there are maybe 3 of them are in the same area and 2 of them are in different areas, maybe they can kind of combine forces and you get 50 people or 75 people to turn out, and we can do something at a local bookstore or one of the restaurants. So that's kind of the idea behind that. I've the last couple of days here on vacation, so to speak. I had a call with some folks up in Hyde Park this amazing chef that actually runs the retirement home. Talk about doing like a private dinner for them and their guests. They can bring whoever they want. And then right up the street from them is also the Culinary Institute of America. So, kind of finding ways to tie in, as much as we possibly can. Rap City Roast, I'd love to come, not sure where you guys are, but, I'd love to come, link up with you guys so we can make it work for everybody.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's interesting about like one of the people that I really found successful with that is Amanda Palmer, where like kind of people like really resonate with the idea of like it's like she would give away her music for free, and basically like for the crowdfunding, when people would show up like at her performances and stuff, her thing was basically where it was all about these live appearances. Like in other words, the value added these days is not about like kind of something that people can download and stuff. In fact, another one was Tim Ferriss, that he also just basically gave away his stuff on the BitTorrents and stuff. Like in other words, places where people normally pirate stuff, and he just gave away downloads, and then in exchange he just basically got this publicity and where like it was all about wherever he can appear in person. So I think that's the thing as creatives, is we need to figure out is like, with this age of, downloads and all that kind of stuff, what is the value added? So in terms of your appearances and everything, like it's also, of course, doing the book signing and everything. And then, so, yeah, that's a great, also another angle is making appearances at like, the retirement home and everything. I mean, I think that's the thing. It's like it's a great opportunity to just not only for them to meet and meet you in person, but also to actually taste your cooking. I mean, that's really a worst part of the whole magic, right, and stuff. There's no substitute for that. And I think maybe that's the thing that you found as well. That like for me, like food as an experience, it's where we all eat. That's the thing that's a common denominator. And I think that's like kind of connecting, like sitting down with somebody and connecting that way is really goes beyond like kind of because we can write and we can kind of maybe grab people's attention and stuff. But I think that's something that you bring to the table. No pun intended, is the idea of like kind of sitting down and breaking bread with somebody. I mean that's the thing that like kind of goes beyond like kind of just like touching somebody with your words and your ideas and stuff. So in terms of the launch and the the book tour and these other things, and so what other things are you doing to kind of basically what are these other touches that you're looking to make, I guess, at this point?
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things is really just trying to, as we talked about before, is just being as generous as possible. I'm trying to. I haven't the last couple of days, but there was 2 days where I was on for an hour each time, for basically 3 full hours live streaming Facebook, just answering people's questions. And that wasn't something that I had to do, but it was really, like you said, it's not about giving something that people can necessarily download, but I think a lot of it is being there for people to really connect with. I think that's something Amanda Palmer has done a brilliant job of doing. And Tim Ferriss, when he launches the 4-hour work week, which obviously he did really, really well and still does really, really well. When he first launched that, he gave interviews, I think, with everybody. Not because he had to, but because he knew that the more people he could connect with on a kind of human level, then the more people that would probably appreciate what he has to do. So I'm really just looking to be as generous as possible, kind of keep the momentum going, but definitely trying to use things like you and I connecting here on Blab, on Facebook is huge for me. And I yesterday met up with this guy who I didn't have to, but met up with him, who's been kind of a follower or fan for a while, here in Florida. So something that I probably wouldn't necessarily do all the time, but right now, if I can connect with people, then I know that people are going to really appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that in internet marketing, they talk all the time about scalability and stuff. And my thing is at different times, it's really like to the degree that you can focus on the things that aren't scalable, that's the things that really, like it's counterintuitive. It seems like it's, like scaling gives us more results and stuff. But in reality, I find that like it's those personal one-on-one, the one-offs and stuff like that, that you can build a deeper connection that like you just couldn't do otherwise. I mean, that's the thing that like, meeting somebody in person, I as much as, we're all about kind of, using things like Blab and, like the Facebook, the video, stuff like that. It's still about that, like kind of that human connection. I think it's still really, there's the whole thing of with MasterCard about being priceless stuff. I think it really is priceless of doing that. And I think for yourself, you've been using the Facebook video to do that. So what have you kind of found with that, like so far, like kind of how is that connected with your audience, and what kinds of things do you have to share as kind of as your lessons so far with using the Facebook video?
Sure. Well, before I kind of jump into that, I just to reiterate what you were saying. I totally agree. I mean, one of the real reasons why I'm a huge fan and have been for a long time is Gary Vaynerchuk is the fact that he really kind of has scaled the unscalable. He maybe not anymore, but he responds to pretty much every single email. And now I can email him. I mean, he knows who I am, but he will respond because that's what he has done for a long time. And he really creates amazing kind of ambassadors for his brand as a result. And so I've kind of tried to take that mentality of just doing as much as I possibly can for the people, trying to give people value. But you also have to do it out of a place of, from a good place in your heart. You can't just do it because you want to make money, but you want to be able to do it because you can help people and make a difference. And if you give somebody a little bit of fire under their belly, then great. But yeah, so Facebook video has been huge for me. I think it's hard if you don't really have a platform yet because, and I'm not sure. I guess now anybody can do Facebook video, but when I first started, Facebook mentions, which is you had to have like the public figure, so to speak. You had to have like the blue check or whatever, which is actually pretty easy to get. When I first started, I had maybe 15,000 fans, followers, whatever you want to call them. And the more you have, obviously, the more you can kind of scale that to go back to scaling. But the more people are going to see in the news feeds and that kind of thing. And I know Facebook is really pushing hard with things like Blab and Periscope and all the other different platforms. They're really pushing hard to make Facebook video as attractive as possible and to give it as much organic reach as possible too. So I really just try to take advantage of that. And I think it works pretty seamlessly if you're using it and we're having a conversation. I can see all the comments coming in, and sometimes there are hundreds rolling in. And the only thing I don't like is the views. I'm not sure what they call it, but it's like 2 seconds or something like that for a view, which is not really accurate or fair, I don't think. I mean, people are saying, "Oh yeah, I got 100,000 views on this video or whatever," and it's just not really true, and it's not really accurate. And I think people start to kind of get caught up in the numbers a lot more than they really need to.
Yeah, I think that's definitely like just a general thing in social media is, that, in fact, before we got on, I was just reading a blog post where a guy talks about where he unsubscribed like something like 25,000 people just because he found that like that was not the right 25,000 for his audience and stuff. And I think that's so often the case, that like people get wrapped up in these kind of vanity metrics, was really what it is that like they have really, really little or no meaning to your actual business. And really like you said, like it's the business part is on the one hand is about, kind of profitability, making money, stuff like that. But like you also said, it's that ultimately it's got to be about coming from this place of helping people, and people feel that. I mean, that's the thing that like, really, like I think for me, like when one of the first ways we connected when I, like kind of saw your writing and stuff was that sense that like, you weren't just writing to get a lot of different views and stuff. It feels good as a writer to get that acknowledgement of, that you're providing value to that many people and everything. But I think people really sense your sincerity of like just basically, your passion for the craft, and also that you want to, connect with people on that level and stuff. Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like kind of really, that's the thing that like about the things that aren't scalable is that you can't fake it. You can't fake that sincerity of wanting to provide value, wanting to help others and stuff. And that's the thing that like really I think comes across in your writing. And so in terms of the book itself, then yeah, like I mean that what would you say that is the one thing that like if nobody if one thing that people got out of what you wrote for the book and stuff, what would be that one thing?
That really that success is out there for everybody. That it's a state and a mind frame versus being really good at something. Because again, over and over again, interviewing all these people. Some of them went to culinary school, some of them didn't. Some of them had amazing mentors, some of them didn't. Some of them were just really talented. Out of the gates, sometimes it's that LeBron James or Michael Jordan thing. But then some of them weren't. So it's if you're willing to work hard, if you're willing to understand that you're going to have challenges, that people are important to surround yourself with. It's all about really just creating the right circumstances in your mind and in your life for success. It's really not about being better than anyone else, but it's really just kind of an internal job too.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate you coming in, back on the show and stuff. I know that you're really busy with the book launch and everything. What's the best way for people to kind of stay on top of what's going on with the launch itself?
So have a website for the book called makingthecutbook.com. And there we have, I have a bunch of rewards, which I probably should have mentioned before too, on kind of making it appealing for people, but a bunch of rewards. So if you buy the book, you can get, and then email me a copy of it, which all the information is there on the website. You can get, a free or an early version of the ebook, as well as all the audio interviews of the calls that I did and the interactions with all the different chefs. So that's pretty cool, I think. Makingthecutbook.com. Also, there's a platform there with a blog. So if you have a story that you'd like to tell, whether you're a cook, chef, or something else, people can share their stories there as well. So there's a place where you can email me your story, and then put it up there with some photos of you, and it's kind of a way for other people to also kind of tell their story in a way that can hopefully reach some people.
Awesome. Thanks again, Chris. And I'm going to actually stop the recording.